Sacramento as we get to our trade candidate of the day. Like we said, this guy is still playing, and it's not Obi Toppin because it is Bennedict Mathurin. Bennedict Mathurin, the hero from a couple games ago. He dropped 27 points. He was drafted in the 2022 NBA draft, which means there's still a ton of team control. He was the 6th pick in that draft to the Indiana Pacers, of course. He goes 6'6", Kyle, and this is Basketball Reference. He goes 6'6" on Basketball Reference, and I think the big thing about Bennedict Mathurin is trying to figure out what exactly he is. Very interesting story, Kyle. I'm just seeing this here just from Basketball Reference. So he was born, I don't know what's going on with these Canadians, man, but they're taking over. He was born in Montreal, Quebec, okay?
Yep.
He went to high school in Mexico, NBA Academy, Latin America, in Mexico.
Okay. And then ended up at Arizona?
Then went to Arizona for college and gets drafted in the first round. So Bennedict Mathurin, to me, is right on that fringe of, okay, a couple places are giving him 6'6". He's probably more like 6'5", 6'4", maybe. Not a power forward is the best way I could put it. Not a power forward.
A 3 that's probably a 2.
Yes, in 72 games. This was kind of surprising to me, Kyle, when I looked this up. I did not realize Bennedict Mathurin could score the basketball like this. You know what he reminds me of? When I watch him, he kind of reminds me of, and he's a better shooter, but that's not really difficult. He kind of reminds me of a poor man's Amen Thompson a little bit. Scrappy, gets after you defensively. Like I said, better shooter, but he's getting offensive. When you watch him, you're wondering, how are you getting to, he's averaged 16 points a game. If you watch him, you think, how are you getting to 16 points a game?
Yeah, it's interesting because I know he's very excellent at his scoring ability. It's just, is the reason why he hasn't been better because of the defense hasn't blossomed the way people maybe thought he was? Because like people were talking about him versus Keegan Murray in the draft, and I think most people would say Keegan probably is going to get a larger contract than Bennedict Mathurin when they both have their extensions.
He's not starting. He's not starting. They're on a better team, and they're younger. So I don't know if it's apples to apples. 16 points a game in 72 games, 5.3 rebounds per game, 1.9 assists per game, 45% from the field, 34% from three, 83% from the line for his career, which has been a short one. 209 games, 15.9 points per game, 4.5 rebounds per game, 1.8 assists per game, 44.6% from the field, 34.2% from three-point range. Yeah, I mean, he's only 22, okay? He is literally about to turn 23 in 2 days, June 19th.
So he's the same age Keegan was when he got drafted.
Yeah.
Just crazy to think about that way.
And he's in his 3rd season, okay? He was 4th in Rookie of the Year voting his rookie season. He was 8th in Sixth Man of the Year voting. He was at 16.7 his rookie year. He played 78 games, 28 minutes per game. Okay, last season he only played 59 games. He was the one that was missing in the playoffs last season. As everybody said, the Pacers got to face a bunch of injured teams. They were missing Bennedict Mathurin.
Well, yeah, and then Tyrese got hurt, obviously, against the Celtics, but
yeah,
Bennedict Mathurin was out the whole season. I guess it's interesting because, like, yes, he is coming off the bench, but at the same time, is he coming off the bench because he's not Aaron Nesmith?
Pretty much.
Because I guess Aaron Nesmith is bringing better defense. I'm kind of just glancing at the defensive numbers for their team, and Bennedict Mathurin's their worst defender. Statistically speaking, he is their worst defender. So I guess it goes back to Austin Rivers last week was talking about what you need in the modern NBA. It's like, if we're talking about the 5 tools, Mathurin's giving you 3 of them, but without the ability to guard your man, a 27 point per game scorer only does them but so much if he's their worst defender statistically.
Yeah, and it's so he's worse than Halliburton?
At least just based on the nerd stats, the O LeBron, D LeBron, C LeBrons, which I'm just going to hit myself with it.
Dork.
Yeah.
Halliburton is negative. Halliburton's not even the worst on the Pacers either. But Halliburton's a negative 0.11. He's a negative 0.73. The next worst defender is, well, we're not going to count Jahlil Okafor because he only played like 4 games with them. Ironically enough, it's Obi Toppin. I hate those. It's anyway. Not exactly the answer you were looking for.
No, well, I don't want to hear any of that anyway. By the way, we're about to get into some of the deals that could be done for Bennedict Mathurin, and the Pacers have a decision because I feel like they have a bunch of similar guys, right? They're not exactly the same, but Nesmith, Bennedict Mathurin, Nembhard's more of a ball handler, but they're all like 6'4" to 6'6", and nobody's really sure out of those 3 who's going to be the best in 5 years. I'm not sure. I just wanted to quickly just bring up how bad Nembhard has been. I think we already did Nembhard as a trade candidate, or maybe we were waiting for the Pacers to lose and they just didn't.
I think Whitey also.
He's been terrible. Offensively, he's been very bad.
Yeah, you know who else has been surprisingly bad the last few games is Ben Shepherd.
Yeah.
Like, they were kind of plugging him in for spots, and it's like, you can't really play him very much at this point in the playoffs.
No, you can't. But I wonder if a conversation is had where one of these guys is probably getting moved is my point. Between Nesmith, Mathurin, Ben Shepherd, I don't think is saving anybody, but Nesmith, Mathurin, Nembhard, I don't think all 3 of them will be on the team next
I guess the question is just, what do they need? Like, what is the thing that they're going to get that puts them over the hump from where they are?
I think they need one of those guys to take a leap. That's number 1.
But a leap in what way? Offensively?
I think offensively, because we can look up his playoff stats, but there's no way Bennedict Mathurin has been at 16 during the playoffs. There's no way.
I don't know, because he's got a few 20-point games in there, but I still, it's tough because so much of their success is that these guys, like Austin Rivers said, they all have ball handling ability. They all can spot up and shoot for 3. And because Tyrese Halliburton is their star player and he's mostly a facilitator.
This is what he needs around him.
I guess, but it's like, I think the way for them to be better is like Tyrese being a 25 point per game guy instead of asking Mathurin to take a leap or be more of a focal point of their offense, or asking any of those guys to. I think it's maybe more on Tyrese to make a leap.
This is the decision. Yeah, but I think this is the decision they have to make. And I've said, and I said it when it happened. They lose that game. It won't be Harrison Barnes on the Warriors 2016 level slander, but they lose that. And it's tough because this guy's splitting time with SGA, but they lose this series. You're going to look at Andrew Nembhard and that game 4, and also this, to a lesser degree, game 5, but that game 4, Andrew Nembhard was open all day long.
Yeah.
And I get it. He's battling with Shea. I get it. But he makes again, it's a 2016 Harrison Barnes conversation, or you could argue the Harrison Barnes 2022 conversation to a lesser degree with the Kings. He makes, and that wasn't the finals, but he makes a couple of those shots. Nembhard does. They go up 3-1, and they probably win the series.
Yeah. By the way, Mathurin's averaging 11 points in the playoffs.
Yeah. So 5 points under his regular season average.
But you also saw it at the end of game 4 is like, when it comes to clutch time or nut crunching time, it's like they can't play him because he can't defend. So when push comes to shove, they can't play Bennedict Mathurin down the stretch because I saw one of my favorite jokes from the whole game 4 was someone saying, how did Bennedict Mathurin check in for 2 minutes and commit every possible mistake you could make down the stretch? And like, it's great when he's scoring 27 points and shooting 75% from the field and the Pacers are up 8 points with 4 minutes to go. But outside of a situation where they have a lead, you can't play him down the stretch on that team specifically. They need the team defense. They need Nembhard and Neesmith and McConnell to play defense more than they need Mathurin scoring.
I think, and again, this isn't a segment on how the Pacers can save their season, but I think you throw all that out the window in game 6. I think that if you're still losing, right, and Neesmith, you're waiting for him to have those 6 threes. I don't know if it's coming back. Well, I mean, last night they said it at one point, they got TJ McConnell with the greatest third quarter of his entire career. And it's still not enough. So I'm thinking they're just not as good as the Thunder, but because they're not as good, you can't try to play traditionally, right? If Mathurin is going to at least be hot for you, right now I can't play Neesmith and Nembhard. That's my issue, because you're still fouling. The Thunder are still scoring. And Nembhard cannot, he looks like he's shooting with the opposite hand. That's how bad it is.
Which I guess we'll talk about it after the break, but it brings it back to the original point of the conversation, which is, what does Indiana need, right? Like, we can say bringing back Mathurin and Neesmith and Nembhard and Ben Shepherd doesn't make sense, but what is the thing that they need in order to get over, which maybe the Kings have it, maybe they don't.
We will find out as Kyle has cooked up some trade proposals to get one Bennedict Mathurin, and Doug will work on his defense. Allen Stiles, Sactown Sports. Let's see if Bennedict Mathurin will also be on the Kings page. All right, Kyle, let's get these trade candidates. What's popping tonight?
All right, so the first trade situation, I guess, is I don't know, this doesn't really solve the Pacers' problem, but it more so just kind of like shit, like shuffles the deck a little bit, which is I don't even know if he's a better player right now than Mathurin, but it would just be swap those two, Malik Monk for Mathurin, and then the Kings get Tony Bradley for salary reasons. But basically just Monk for Mathurin.
Pacers are not doing that.
That's what I thought, but that's the only real thing the Kings have of value, because they're not going to want DeRozan. So,
I don't know. Thank you, Doug.
Well, they would have to include two of the guys to get DeRozan. I just don't think they would do that.
No.
So that's the only. I don't even know if he's better than Mather. I think they're kind of like the same player right now.
Yeah.
Which is kind of weird to kind of put it together, but I guess the Pacers probably would just say, we'll take the 22-year-old and hope he blossoms into something instead of the sure thing of Malik, which, by the way, I think they averaged the same number of points this year.
Yeah, it's just tough for Malik right now. It's even tough for me to evaluate Malik coming off of this past season. It was just so random. Random with the sitting and the starting and the point guard and the starting at 2 guard, just very random for Malik.
Yeah, because I'm thinking, if they offered Mathurin an extension this offseason, it would probably be literally what Malik just signed for with the Kings, like 4 years, $75 million or something like that.
Now, would I do this again? Yeah, I would. I would get younger. And
so this is just about the youth and what Mathurin could become.
That's exactly right. He's a little bigger. I think he can still improve defensively. I don't think it's, I don't think it's all the way cooked. I would do it, but I just don't see why the Pacers would do that.
Yeah, I don't either. But this brings us to the second one, which is, what is the thing the Kings have that Indiana might need? A little bit of defensive length, the 3 position, a player that they could have had if Sacramento had chosen differently in the draft. Let's go with his draft classmate, Keegan Murray.
Okay.
So this is actually pretty funny. I don't want to change it now because it's funnier this way, but I had made this morning before the Pacers traded the pick that was supposed to go to Sacramento.
Yeah.
But originally the idea was they get Keegan Murray for Bennedict Mathurin, Jarris Walker, and then move up 20 spots in the draft. So the Kings go from 42 to 23, and you get your point guard in the bottom half of the first round. So for Keegan, you would get former first-round pick kind of flaming out right now, Jarris Walker and Bennedict Mathurin.
Kyle, you are overvaluing Keegan Murray, brother.
Am I now?
Yeah, you are.
All the numbers say Keegan Murray's a better player than Bennedict Mathurin. And Jarris,
yeah, but you're giving the Kings are getting to move up and take my guy Grant Nelson at 23.
Well, not anymore.
Not anymore.
Maybe okay. So get rid of the picks. If I just make it Jarris Walker,
I think the Pacers would be interested in that, but they're not giving. Yeah, they wouldn't have given up all three of them things. Well, Keegan Murray.
It's just 20 spots in the draft. It's not that big of a difference.
It is a big deal.
Jarris Walker played 0 minutes in the finals, and I say played because he's already been ruled out for injury for Game 6. So I don't know.
He's 6'7", by the way. Powerful. He's 21, Jarris Walker.
But how do we bridge the gap between Keegan and Bennedict Mathurin without giving up one of the core players on the Pacers?
No, I think Bennedict Mathurin and Jarris Walker for Keegan, I think, is much more even.
Well, I guess that's what we have to do now because the Pacers don't have the 23rd pick anymore.
I think that's much more even, but even still, yeah, Keegan, Malik, all this season just got squirrely on everyone's value to me.
Yeah. I mean, Keegan, we know Keegan's more valuable than Bennedict Mathurin, right? We feel pretty certain that is the case.
I think size, I think what we've seen from him, like I said, lesser team, but Keegan starts every single night. We know he's way better defensively. Is Keegan a Jarris Walker better than Bennedict Mathurin? To me, yes.
So therefore you would not do it. Or you're saying if you're the Pacers.
I'm saying it's an even trade. I don't know who would do it or not do it. Would I personally do it? Probably not.
Yeah.
I don't know.
You would hang on to Keegan.
I would.
Yeah, I know. And again, the only reason I went this way is because Keegan's probably the only thing the Kings have that the Pacers want. Unless the Pacers are like, we just don't want Bennedict Mathurin anymore. Please give us Malik Monk. Like
I said, they just got Keegan's bigger, right? They got a bunch of 6'4" to 6'6" dudes, the Pacers do. If they said, Allen, you got to place a bet on who you think is more likely to make one all-star team between Bennedict Mathurin and Keegan, I'd put my money on Keegan, but I wouldn't expect to get it back anyway, but I would put it on Keegan before Bennedict Mathurin.
I know they believed it was Keegan, or at least the previous regime, because they took Keegan over Bennedict Mathurin. Right. It was Keegan, Jaden, and Mathurin were the choices they had, and they chose Keegan. And I guess you'd say of the three, they're all pretty close, but I think they chose right so far, if you had to say.
If Bennedict, let's say they don't do that and Bennedict Mathurin is on the Kings, I wonder what he'd look like right now if he was getting essentially the runway that Keegan was getting. Because like I said, he's coming off the bench, playing on a much younger, more successful team. If he was just playing as much as Keegan was, I wonder how we would view Bennedict Mathurin.
I don't know. Would he be a 20-point? Do you think he can be a 20-point per game guy in the NBA? And not like on high volume, like 20 points per game as a, not 50, 40, 90, but like 48, 38, 88 kind of number. I don't think it's going to happen for him. But
I mean, he's never, think about it like this, though. He's at 15.9, right? He's at 15.9 for his career on a good team. And he's playing a shade under 30 minutes a game. He's playing 20. So he's scoring 16 points in 28 minutes a game.
Right. But he's also kind of inefficient, right? He shoots 34% from three and 44% from the field.
Who cares?
That's basically Malik Monk. I don't think
22 though.
I don't even think
Malik was, in a different spot when he was 22.
I think Malik's only 25 or 26.
And a lot has happened in those 3 years or 4 years.
Sure, yeah. He was a flame out at 22, 23, and now here he is as a super sub sixth man role, which, Bennedict Mathurin is kind of that on the Pacers right now, and they're in the finals.
Yeah, now that I put it like that, as far as who would I bet to be an all-star, it's really close between those two. I'd say Keegan.
But I don't think either is ever going to get there.
No. And if you can get Jarris Walker as well at 21, 6'7".
Played 0 minutes in the finals.
By the way, how about Tony Bradley getting some time yesterday for the Pacers?
Okay.
I was so confused.
We've got to go to break, but I just thought it was so funny that there was one time where they got a steal and it was him and Shea were one-on-one, and he tried to hit the Euro step on Shea and went up for the shot, and Shea just swatted that thing out of the air. Like, brother, you're like 5 inches bigger than him. Just go over him.
Yeah, this is what Carlisle's dealing with.
Tony Bradley trying to hit the Euro.
This thing is cooked.
The Euro step, and that one time that Obi Toppin had a wide open dunk and he just body checked Isaiah Hartenstein like it was the Stanley Cup final.
Is Ace Bailey cooking his situation? Every year there's always one in the NBA draft. And could the Kings get into the draft conversation? Allen Stiles, Sactown Sports.
This summer, give